Dre Baldwin. Company is Work on Your Game Incorporated. And what we do here is we take the tools to help athletes get to the top 1% of the sports world, translate those tools over to the business world to help professionals perform at their highest level, do so consistently, and make more money in their business based on our 4-part framework of mindset, strategy, systems, and accountability.
Diversified Game. Learn how to start, run, and sustain your business.
Hey, it's Kellen, and today on Diversified Game, you heard that intro, and he said it like he said it 100,000 times because speaking is what he does. He's just not a ball player. He's just not an author of 33 books and counting, because I'm sure there's some more on the way, some more game for you guys to get. He has a podcast. He has a website. You guys look in the links. You will check him out. But I got DreAllDay.com, man. What's going on, my brother? How are you?
I'm doing excellent, Kellen. Glad to be here.
Man, glad that you are here. We're talking, that mindset, making more money. And of course, we're talking athletics because you spent 9+ years, but really a lifetime. When people really think about what it took you to go pro, took a lifetime probably to get there and then to even transition. And now you're still pro, just in another way. Let the people know, especially those athletes out there that are getting their first NIL deal. What's the mistake they're making? What should they be looking at, Dre? Give them some game because they might not read all 33 of your books.
Which athlete we talking to? Pro, college, high school?
I love to start where, that college, maybe that 14 to 17-year-old who's thinking about going to college, but, even the ones that are in college thinking, oh, I'm going to get this, $5,000 check and I'm going to be, I've made it. Cause you get your first 5 or 10,000 and you don't have real bills. You think, oh, let me go get the watch. Let me go get this, whatever game that you have for them, because I'm sure there's something you see athletes repeatedly making mistakes doing over and over.
Yeah, well, the biggest thing is, we could even look at where we're at right now, because I was thinking about this morning, as a matter of fact. Athletic careers are short. No matter how far you go, whether you play at the highest level of pros and you have a 20-year career, when you get done, you're only 40 years old. So what are you going to do after that? And you're probably going to want to do something else and bring something else to the table for society, even after you're done playing sports. And many athletes don't make it that far. So those are few and far between, the guys with 20-year careers. Most professional careers are 3 to 5 years long in all the 4 major pro sports. And only 1% of athletes who play in college even make it to the pros. Most players who play in college, that's the end of your career. So whatever you get from, let's say, doing NIL deals, that'd be the last time you make money from playing a sport. So you want to be thinking long-term, and whatever it is that you can do as an athlete, make sure you're utilizing that as a springboard for whatever you're going to do next, because you may not be able to extend your playing career as far as maybe what you see people doing on TV.
And what about when you are one of the blessed few to go pro, you've played pro, the moves, I have some talent that they say, I wish I knew you when I was having those 6-figure deals in track and field. And it's like, because no one showed them what to do with their money. So, you get money like a refund check for college students. I got some money. Let me survive. Let me thrive. What advice would you give for those that are pro, no matter what, how big that check is? Because people think just because you're a pro athlete, you're like Deion Sanders or Shaquille O'Neal. Those who don't know just think everyone's making millions and millions of dollars, not understanding, the minor leagues, not understanding going overseas. You can still make a good living, but it might not be the fantasy that some people have right now in college in their head. You bless them with the ball. You were there.
Yeah, absolutely. And is similar to what we just talked about, is understanding that your career may not be as long as you think it's going to be. And also that depending on what you have set up for the future after sports, you need to utilize that money to set yourself up for that future, whatever that future is going to be, whether that means investing in yourself, investing in your family, investing in your kids if you have any, and investing in any type of assets that you may want to gather right now. And an asset could be something tangible like a house. An asset could also be something like educating yourself a little bit more, investing in yourself, so that when you do get out of your sport and you want to move into another space, you actually have some intelligence, you have some knowledge in that space, because guess what? You're going to be competing against people who've been doing that the whole time that you've been playing your sport. So if you play a sport for 5 years and then you want to go and get into some industry, you're competing against other people who have been in that industry for the last 5 years while you were playing basketball or playing football or running track. And you have to compete. And you're not going to be able to always use the fact that you are or were an athlete as a passport to get you into certain doors. It works while you're playing, but as soon as you stop playing, it's almost like your access is revoked. So you're going to have to bring some other value to the table besides just the fact that you play sports, because the further you get away from your career as a player, the less it matters to other people.
Can you go deep on that? Your access is revoked, because it's like when you're hot, or if you're at a job and you have all access, just being able to go through all the doors. That day you stop working there, try to go through those doors and see how your feelings are hurt. How does someone transition or adjust to that? Does it start while you're playing the game, where you never lose yourself, or is it after and you got to do, so many sessions of therapy because you're like, hold on, I've been hot since I'm 8 years old?
Yeah. Well, it depends. It depends on the person, and it depends on how much you were paying attention to the outside world while you were on the inside. So for someone like myself, I was always looking at other things because I got introduced to the concept of entrepreneurship before I'd even started playing pro. I was still in college. So I had that in the back of my mind. And I also understood realistically that pro athletes' careers are not that long. And I knew that even if I play as long as, I don't know who was playing by that time, around that time, let's say Michael Jordan, he was close to 40 or a little bit over 40 when he stopped playing. And I'm thinking 40 is not really that old. My parents were around that age and they still are. So you still got another 40 years to live. So I was already thinking, what else am I going to do after basketball is done? However long it takes, however long it goes, what am I going to do after that? So I was already thinking about that and just taking the time to invest in myself, even though I didn't have money to invest as a college athlete. I could even put time into investing in myself. So going to the part that I was saying to you here, I remember talking to the NBA's developmental league players known as the G League, probably maybe 2 or 3 years after I stopped playing. And they brought me in to talk to the players in. And I was talking to them about, what are you going to do after that? And usually on every team, there were 10 players. Usually about 2 out of every 10 were really actively thinking about what happens after basketball, whereas the other 8, even the people from the league, they told me, because I asked them before the first time I spoke to one of the teams, they said most of these guys just want to play ball. That's all they care about. They don't really want to hear what people like you have to say. They are just focused on, how do I get to the NBA? How do I get this next deal? Am I going to go overseas next year? What am I going to do as far as basketball goes? They didn't want to think about that because they're so focused on the task that is at hand, which I understand. Because when you're in it, then you're in it, especially if it's working or you think it's close to working the way that you want it to work. So for a lot of athletes, what you just said there, some of them may need to go to therapy because that's all they've been. They've been so deeply immersed in playing the sport that they never picked their head up above water to ask themselves, okay, what happens after this? Whereas other athletes, someone like myself and a handful of others, depending on their situation for different reasons, may already be thinking about, Kellen, what's the next thing going to be, and why does that next thing matter? Why do I need to be thinking about it now? But a lot of athletes, they're not going to think about it until that reality kind of wakes them up, hits them in the face.
Now, how much of that is having parents and then, what they put into you when you were young? Because people will say, well, I didn't have anyone to guide me. And you ask, wait, hold on, you had a mother, you had a father. Did they not tell you anything, or are you just not listening? But for you, like, who was that, those guiding lights that helped you get to that, mature thinking while in the game?
Good question. Well, I had both parents at home, but my parents knew nothing about the sports world. They knew sports like watching TV. I mean, my dad was a sports fan, but he didn't know anything about being an actual player in a sports game. And my parents really didn't know anything about, how could you get into playing a sport professionally. They probably didn't think that their child was even eligible for making it happen. And at the same time, my parents were more working traditional jobs. They did some small business dabbling, but they weren't really entrepreneurs either. So I went into spaces. And also, let's not forget about the internet. They didn't know anything about that either, because that didn't come around until about 20 years ago. So the things that I ended up going into, they didn't really know anything about, so they couldn't give me guidance on that. But I still had home training, as we say. So I knew, go to school, respect authority, do my schoolwork, get good grades, graduate, which I did, all of those things. And then when it came to thinking about the future, I think the biggest thing my parents did was they got me into reading from a very young age. So because I was a big reader, I would go to the bookstores before Amazon, actual bookstores, and I would read books. And because I was a big reader, I was just always open to new opportunities. And those new opportunities led me to finding out about entrepreneurship, which nobody taught me. Not even college taught me that. But I got introduced to entrepreneurship. And when I got introduced to it, the entrepreneurs were talking about, well, hey, if you're going to build a business, you got to build yourself. You got to read these books. Now you got to learn about this. You got to understand this. You got to go grab this Robert Kiyosaki and Napoleon Hill and Brian Tracy. And I started reading those books. And that's where I started to get this information and this knowledge and this different way of thinking. So indirectly, my parents set me up for that. So to answer your question here, somebody saying they didn't have people around them. The good news about the world that we live in today, in the world that we're in now, is that you don't have to have these people in your tangible physical world. You can surround yourself with people by proxy. You don't have to actually know them or ever even meet them, because you can listen to their podcast, you can watch their YouTube, you can follow them on social media, and you can read their books.
I love it. I love it. And, you know, talking about books, I said how many you have, and I want to make sure, because I've been using AI for at least 7 years to put books together, children's books and different things. But your books were before that most people would even have access to that type of software. So I don't want them to look at you like Brother Polite, where he just threw something together. You really put the time in for your books and have gone through the stages. And like 40 says, there's stages to these wages. So that's why you are looking like some are not. But I wanna really put the shine on that, because even to get to this interview, you guys, this rarely happens where somebody, and this isn't the biggest show, more listeners than on YouTube, but it has an audience, and you sent a customizable video. What that did for me and the people who helped me check all the emails, we get 1,000 of them a week, right? And we're like, wait, this guy made a video? And one of my team members like, hey, the Saint in the Center guy made a video. I said, that's not the Saint in the Center. That's great.
I look like him.
I said, I don't want to start no beef, because, you know, Saint in the Center, you know, you don't want no beef, Saint. But yeah, that's, you know, that custom. We're like, yeah, for sure, because your story is great. But I've been in Africa for 18 days. I'm going to Mexico next week, you know, but I said, let me make some time, because I love what he's doing. And, you know, your publicist, kudos to them for, you know, pushing that and making sure we saw it again. But what that drive, I want to make sure that people hear where that drive comes, because the same thing that helped you win in sports is helping you win in basketball. And that's why he's in Miami, and you guys might be in Kentucky wanting to be in Miami, because, you know, it's expensive to be in Miami. But that drive, did anybody teach you? Because somebody might think, oh, because he was an athlete like Magic Johnson, someone pulled him to the side and gave him some extra game. I don't think that's how it happened. I think you just got it out the mud because you were, you know, inquiring minds wanted to know. But you let me know if I'm wrong.
And you're 100% correct. So no, Magic Johnson did not put me on to that. I don't think Magic Johnson needs to do it. See, Magic Johnson gets to say his name. So people don't know my name. I don't think you heard of me before you all got that email. So for me, when it comes to marketing, because getting somebody's attention, especially if they have a lot of people trying to get their attention, is a form of marketing. And I don't know who exactly said it to me first, but somebody told me years ago, you want to look to do things that don't scale. And even when it comes to doing things like writing books or things like how we reached out to you, is what are you willing to do that most other people, you could tell them about it, but they won't do it because it's just too lazy to do it. And the biggest challenge a lot of people have, I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, even entrepreneurs who are just starting out and some who are more seasoned, but a lot of times starting out entrepreneurs, the biggest challenge is not a lack of information, it's a lack of implementation. It's not that they don't know what to do, it's just they're not doing it. All right, 2 weeks went by, you still haven't done that thing you said you were going to do two weeks ago. And that's one of the things that I try to make sure that I don't have that problem. So I know that in this space that we're in now, that a lot of people are reaching out and trying to get on platforms like what you have and trying to collaborate and do stuff. I get all kinds of spam messages and DMs and from people all the time for all different things, and I don't even know who these people are. And anybody can easily copy and paste the message. Right? That's easy to do. You can send 1,000 of those a day. But if you're going to do something that doesn't scale, you probably can't do 1,000, but it'll stand out amongst the 1,000 of what everybody else did. So that's what I'm always looking for. What is that thing that I can do that I know most of my competition, so-called competition, is not going to do? And that's what separates me. And I'm just able to do it consistently because I know how to make a system out of how I do those things.
how many years did it take? Because you've been doing this, this is over a decade of work of you putting in. How many years did it take? Because most people, if it doesn't happen instantly that first month, maybe the first 3 months, hey, tira la puerta, they're out. They're like, God, this didn't work. On to the next thing.
Right. So
how long did it take to say, okay, I'm good at this, I'm winning at this, I can make a living at this?
Man, that's a great question, Kellen. So when I first started creating content. I've literally been doing this for 2 decades. So I started creating content in 2005, and at the same time, I'm playing ball overseas. So I wasn't really thinking about using content as a way to get known, because at that time, we weren't saying phrases like influencer, social media, content. None of those things were even phrases. I was only putting the content up there just because I had some footage, and I just wanted to put it somewhere where I knew I wouldn't lose it. It wouldn't get destroyed. So I wasn't even trying to get anybody to see it. I was just putting it up there for me. But then random people start finding it and saying, yo, where you play at? It was just basketball stuff, just on the court. Where you play at? Who taught you how to play? How often do you practice? So now I started making more videos just to help those players out, because they were asking me questions that I knew I could answer. So I would just record my workouts and put little clips up on YouTube. And I did that for 5 years. No money was being made. I didn't have anything to sell. And there were no ads on YouTube at that time, by the way, as well. So it wasn't until 2009 that you had ads on YouTube. I think that was the first money I made. And the payment threshold was $100. So the first payment I ever got from YouTube was $110. All right. And that was after 5 years of putting out content for free. Then within the next year, that's when I started creating my own products. And I got the product idea from a book called The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss, which I'm sure most people know about. And it was his blog. He was explaining how you could create a product online and sell it. My first products were $4.99 a piece. I had 2, one for dribbling, one for shooting, basketball. That's when I first started making money. That was 2009, 2010. So I was putting out content for 5 years before I started making money from it. And when I made my first sale, Kellen, that's when I said to myself, I could do this forever, because all I did was just take an idea, make it into a product, put a price tag on it, and exchange it for money. I said, I got a bunch of ideas. I only had 2 ideas at the time, but I said I got a bunch more ideas than that. So if I could do it with basketball, I could do it with other things. And that's what led to me doing other things, like writing books, coaching, speaking, making courses, making more products for basketball players. And then you had to add revenue. And then as I learned, I continued to learn, because again, I didn't learn entrepreneurship in college. I learned it in real life education. So I learned things about creating other streams of income and what's another way that I can make money. How can I make money without me having to do all the work myself? And still learning. I still consider myself a student to this very day. So these are, to answer your question here fully, when did I believe I could do it was probably about 2009, 2010, when I first started making money. But it's not like I just made a ton of money. Like I told you, my first payment from YouTube was $110, and my first sale was for $5. It was just then when I made one, I said I could do this again. If I could do it once, I could do it again.
I thank you. I thank you. I thank you. And these are the type of conversations, you guys, I want to have with real entrepreneurs. You guys know this is not the Burn Your Leisure podcast where it's just overnight success and you do a whole bunch of Airbnb arbitrage and Turo plays. This is real game. He did it for 5 years, no pay. And every YouTuber, when I first started representing YouTubers, that's how they did it. And their audience just was growing. And then they eventually, blow up to where they can build a team. But that you did that. And he didn't even mention that his videos have gone viral back in those days. I don't know if they caught up when they did start doing advertising and gave you what that $1 million or that million view, thing was. But I doubt YouTube. Yeah, some of it. Yeah, Google. He was nice, Google. I was about to throw you guys under the bus, but I can do that because I can call you. But videos were going viral. You're making it happen. But one thing you've also done very well in your content, you've kept it professional. You've kept it classy. Where's that? Why is that? Because a lot of people go into the weeds just trying to be seen.
Yeah, I never even thought about it that way, like trying to do something just to make a video, pop off, because I didn't even, or go viral or something just by being just outlandish. I never even that's not my style, first of all. I never considered myself to be that type of person. I'm not that way off camera, because the same way I am on camera, I am off camera. And also, I knew that I had the consistency, Kellen. That was always the thing for me. Like, I know if I could just be consistent, that over time, this kind of like slow burn, it will build up over time to where I got this big library of material to where somebody will come across me and they're like, damn, I didn't even know about this guy, but he's been out all this time. But then once they find out about me, they may want to go deeper into the world. So that's always been my mentality of I'm just going to slowly build up this whole library of material. And then as I learn more, I can, of course, make more of it, but also I can diversify it. I can take the content that I made, and a lot of my content supplies the material for my books, or material for my courses, or material for workshops, or masterminds, or keynote speeches, or TED Talks. All of those things can all come from the same place. So we just want to build this whole ecosystem of material where, again, once people come across it and they see the substance, then I always believe the substance is going to last longer than the candy, the sweets.
Hello everyone! Join us on an exciting journey with Explore the World Cameroon. London and Sydney go take you explore Cameroon, the heart of Africa. Experience the vibrant culture, nature, and traditions from Yaoundé market to rainforest adventures. Every page na new discovery. Join the Cameroonian food, music, and wildlife with our explorers. This book na true celebration of Cameroon spirit. Get your copy now. Available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and through your library and bookstores via Ingram's Park. Don't miss this adventure.
Oh, the sweet part sometimes is the money, and people say, okay, I'm getting this game. If you had to give them one book to start with of yours, and then one episode of your own podcast show, or you can pick, whatever you want to pick, YouTube, TED Talk, whatever. Which one would you say, watch this one first after finishing this interview, where they can get, that insight that you think might be the most impactful?
One book of mine, well, I'll tell them to get my book, Work on Your Game, because that's where I basically lay out my whole philosophy. So that book just explains, where Work on Your Game came from. What are some things that I went through that led to me caring about that subject, why I'm talking about it. And that book is not a memoir. It's more of a business and personal development book. So I would go with that book, Work on Your Game. And then when it comes to one episode of my show, man, we got almost 3,000 episodes. So if I had to pick one, I would say I have an episode called The 5 Forms of Investments. That was episode, I think it's episode number 610, but we're at almost 3,000 now. So is that one, 5 Forms of Investment? Or if you want a more recent one that I just put out like 2-3 days ago, was all about how to program the subconscious mind. And that's all about changing your underlying mental mechanisms and your settings. And when you change your mental settings, that allows you to change your physical actions, and change the outcomes of your life.
Okay, you guys got it. If you're going to tap in to one book, libro, trabajo en tu libro de juegos, okay? Mi español es malo, pero practicar todos los días out here in South Florida. Get that book and then go and just binge listen while you're at practice, at sleep. If, you are getting something from it. Now, when you write these books, the book game is a vicious game. People think I'm probably with 33 books. They probably look at you like, oh man, can I get a loan? Talk about the book game, because nobody, and I mean nobody except John Grisham, writes books for today's money. It's always tomorrow's money, sometimes next year's money.
Correct.
Can you demystify, I have 33 books and now you guys can all bother me for a loan? How has that journey been for you?
Sure. So when I first started writing books, I started writing because I found out that you could self-publish books. So most of my books are published through our company. I've done traditional publishing as well. And the reason I started, because I just wanted to get my material out in the written word. I wasn't doing it because I was looking at it as a way to make a bunch of money, because I was just looking at the math. I mean, how much does a book cost? Like $20. So how many books you got to sell to really make a ton of money? I'd rather sell something that costs more money and only make one sale and have to make thousands of sales. And the other thing is most people don't read. So also you're cutting yourself off you're limiting yourself to a certain percentage of the population if you write a book, period, because most people do not read books, at least not voluntarily. So for me, when it comes to the book writing, I first started doing it again because you could self-publish, so I can get a bunch of books out pretty quick. And I turned a bunch of my audience, who were people who follow me through the basketball and mindset stuff, Kellen, onto reading because they were interested in me, not necessarily because they were interested in books, period. So we were able to make book sales off of that. And then when I learned about the funnel process, or just building sales funnels, which became is ubiquitous now, people talk about it all the time, but I learned about it probably about 2014, 2015, around that time. And then I realized, oh, I can package my products together. So now I don't have to sell you one book at a time, because there's a lot of books to sell one at a time. Now I can sell you a package of 4 or a package of 8 or a package of 10 books, different books, all together at the same time. So that allowed me to give more value to people in a shorter period of time. And at the same time, of course, they'll spend more money because you're offering them more stuff. So that allows you to still make more money from the book, but at the same time, when we talk bigger picture of business, and I tell this to authors all the time, so I'm glad you asked this question, is that a book is merely a product. When you're building a business, you want your books to be a piece of your business. They don't need to be the entire business, unless you are, like you said, John Grisham or Stephen King, or what's the chick with the Harry Potter books, J.K. Rowling. If you're something like that, now, if you're selling millions of books a year, then yes, that can be your entire business. I'll tell everybody, I do not sell millions of books a year. We sell hundreds, sell thousands, but we don't sell millions. So the book is just a piece of what we do. So a book can lead to a speaking engagement where you can charge a lot more money. It can lead to a consulting gig. It can lead to a coaching client. It can lead to you doing workshops, or some company bringing you in to train their team for every week for the next 3 months. And there you can charge a lot more money, because, and even if you use the same material that's in the book for what you're speaking about, because the same material packaged up in a different way has a different price tag, has a different value. That's just, and I don't know why that is, but it's true. That's just how it works with human beings. If you put something in a book, it's worth $20. You take that same material and put it in a TED Talk, it can get 10 million views and launch your whole career. So you just need to understand that, again, a book is a product. It is not a business within itself. You want to build a business, and a book can be a piece of it, but it's not the whole business.
Love it. I love it. I love it. Now, with the success that you've had, and the best is yet to come, and you'll continue to have, you're speaking, you're being booked, you have your clients. What is a community give back that you are doing, or that you would like to do in the future? Because I know that you've worked with, in the past, Men to Boys, Coach over there. We've had him on, Coach Dunn. But, what is something that you're working on, or that you want to do in the future as far as, your give back?
That's a great question. One thing that I always want to do is just make sure I'm giving people value that they don't have to invest in, because I know when I was first coming up, I didn't have money to invest in. I couldn't hire a coach. I couldn't sign up for a course. I couldn't buy a ticket to go to a conference, which is why what we do here and having things like a podcast or a YouTube channel or social media is great, because people can access the game for free. That's one thing. And as you mentioned, I've done some volunteering things. I've been a member of Toastmasters, been a president of Toastmasters in the past. And still to this day, I will still go out and do things. If somebody reaches out to me and says, hey, Dre, could you come do this? Because we're looking to give back to the community in this way, whatever the community may be, whether it's youth, whether it's for a certain community, a neighborhood, whether it's somewhere that I came from, whether it's athletes. Let's say if my school was to reach out to me and say, hey, could you come to this, or a school reach out to me, say, can you come to talk to the athletes at the school or the students at the school, or we have an entrepreneurship class, could you come talk to them? I'm always open to doing that. So when people ask me, the answer is almost always yes, as long as we can make it work logistically. So I'm always looking to give back. And again, the great thing about what we have today is that you can be giving back to people every single day, and you don't even know them, because they could just follow you through the free stuff that we all put up.
Amen. Amen to that. And he said his school, then he had to think back, hold on, Philly is a little cold.
Yeah, that's right.
You guys got to catch me.
Maybe in the summertime.
In the summertime, yeah. I read the mind. I try not to abuse my guests, but I read the mind. And that's also to you guys. You see that Philadelphia hustle. There's something about the Philadelphia, the tri-states. Of course, I'm going to mention Oakland, California. That hustle is just different. And y'all got to get on it, because a lot of you are just trying to wait to be discovered. Ain't no discovered. You got to make it happen. When you're thinking about, the next 5 to 10 years, are you thinking about, having a team of mentors and consultants or coaches, or is it working maybe on a product and something in AI, or like where do you see yourself going?
Well, definitely. I doubt it'll be a product in AI, but I will never say never. I'm not a tech guy. I'm more of a front side, in front of the camera guy. But you never know. You never know. I would say the biggest thing for us is we want Work on Your Game to become as ubiquitous in the personal and professional development world as you have Nike is when it comes to athletic apparel. Like if somebody says just do it, everybody knows what that means. They know who it is. So we want that same thing to happen. If somebody says work on your game, everybody should know who it is and what it's about, what it means. So that's the biggest thing for me. And that requires me getting in front of audiences like yours right here. There's a bunch of people listening to this right now who never heard of me before this conversation, and making sure that this message is getting spread and we're getting it out to as many people and as many places as possible so that work on your game becomes what I see it becoming. So for me, it's not necessarily about any particular product, even though we will make more, or a book, even though I will write more, or things like that. We'll do more of that stuff. But all of that is for the bigger picture idea of we want to spread what work on your game means in the world to where everybody knows about it. Because right now, a lot of people don't know about it.
And for athletes listening and say, look, I need this help, I tell people, find the right agent. You know, being an agent here in the state of Florida, it was just a legal thing. I love what, you know, this was a childhood dream. And I just love being able to help and make sure people do not have to retire broke. When people come to you and you're a consultant, which, you know, I tell people, whatever that means, right? We don't give financial advice, but I will hook you up with your CPA and lawyer. You can pick from 3 if you don't have anybody. How do, you know, when they want to work with you, how does it work? The upfront cost. I just want to like make sure people don't, you know, bother you thinking, oh man, Dre's gonna help me for free 99, like Kodak Black thought Master P was gonna help him. I want to make sure, you know, it's clear.
Yeah, so our high ticket coaching program is an investment usually around $25,000 a year. We do have higher ticket programs all the way up to $100,000 per year. But we also have books, we have courses. So again, not everybody's at that level, but we have books that you can get for literally for free. All we ask that you cover the shipping. So $10 out of your pocket, we'll ship you a book. And then we have courses that can start in the lower levels and go up to higher levels as well. So we try to make sure we have something that can serve everybody. And at the end of the day, as I mentioned before, Kellen, we always got the free stuff. So you can always follow my free stuff. And we put out 99% of the stuff that I share is free. So even if you don't have any money in your pocket, you can still get access to the game.
And for anybody thinking about those prices and say, oh, wow, that's a lot. No, there's some people who have, you know, 25,000 on their wrist. They have it on their neck. They have 100,000, you know, on their neck and on their body because they don't know how to invest and they have a low self-esteem. That's my opinion. And I mean that. Because there's so much you can put. We got a DBP plan for you if you got money like that, and you can really sit here and retire. But with that, you know, is the consultation, you know, do they need to come in and pay for the first one, or how does that work? And are they usually at it to be able to pay $25,000? They're probably making at least 6 figures or have access to that. Is that correct?
Right. That's right. We usually work with people who are earning at least $150,000 a year in their businesses. And as far as our first conversation, no, we don't charge for people to come in for our first conversation, but we just try to make it clear, help people understand who we're looking to serve. And then we have that conversation, and that's a no obligation conversation. And if it's a good fit, we feel like we can help you. And we also feel like you'd be a good fit for what we're doing. Then we tell you the details and we go from there.
I got a Philly listener that just struck in my mind. Sometimes I can hear the audience because we stay in tune. For that Philly person, and you know who you are, don't call Dre. You don't, unless you got some money, don't call Dre. Don't tell him about your crypto. Don't tell him about don't tell him about none of that. Don't bother him because I can just see, you know, I just know that people try to weave their way in and I got the greatest idea, Dre, and only if you get on it. Nah, get your party started. Holler at me, then I'll holler at Dre. For that one Philly person I'm talking about, they know who I'm talking about because they check every episode and try to bother my guests. But Dre, I love this. The game is real. We could go all day, but again, he has his own podcast, his own YouTube, 33 books, over 7 million listeners. Y'all got to tap into the game, subscribe to the game, and give them any last words on how they can connect. If you have anything live for us here in South Florida for the summer, let it be known. If not, we'll check the website.
Sure. So just for everybody to remember, one thing to take away from this is that we all have a game. Everybody has a game, whether you're a librarian, a maintenance man, an athlete, a rapper, whatever. We all have a game. Your job is to understand what game you're actually in as opposed to the one you thought you were in. Then you must develop your game so you can go out there and play at the level you're supposed to play at. And remember that we're in a performance and a results-based business, that your business is based on. The success of your business and your career are based on the level that you perform at and the results that you are able to produce. And you can find me on all the socials. I'm probably most active on Instagram at Dre Baldwin, but every other place that Kellen mentioned here, I'm on all those places as well. And once you get into our world, you'll find out about everything else we got going on, because we got a lot.
You guys have got the game, and we thank you for listening, or the few of you who watched, but you can go over to YouTube and go watch, even if you listen, and see Dre and see, the comparison of the Saint and the Sinner that my team member had with him. You can also, comment, like the game, but most importantly, if you do nothing else, share this game with somebody. It will change their life. Y'all be blessed.
Are you tired of the rat race in America? Are you ready to visit the motherland to relax and rejuvenate? Are you ready to explore all that Africa has to offer? Then check out the brand new Diversified Game Academy course, Prepare for My First Trip to Africa. Are you worried about being able to afford the trip? We got you. We will show you how to travel either on a budget or as a baller. Learn how to stress the value of the USD. Did you know that 100 United States dollars is worth over 1,000 South African rand, or 10,000 Kenyan shillings, or 54,250 West African CFA? Are you worried about taking your kids? Get the game from Kellen Cash, a bona fide world traveler, having traveled to almost 20 countries, several of those in Africa. Get the game on taking your kids on their first trips. Learn how to find the best tickets, get the visas, and plan your own adventures in Africa. Don't let Eddie Murphy have all the fun. Plan your own coming to Africa trip starring you, produced by you, and featuring you. If you are ready for a life-changing experience, sign up for our course today, Diversified Game Academy. Get prepared and purchase at diversifiedgame.com.